Welcome to Reverse Sweep's Power Rankings presented by USAA Insurance. I'm your host, Katie Bedford, here with Enable and Pacman. And guys, these power rankings, how do you feel about them? Was it hard for you after the major to kind of suss things out, or was it pretty easy?
I want to say that it was actually really hard. And that's because I honestly feel like this is the worst mid-pack form that we've seen teams in a long time in the CDL, CWL, whatever. It's the worst that the mid-pack's ever been. None of them are in form.
Yeah, I mean, you just kind of clump them all together, close your eyes, and you just pick who deserves what spot. Because there really is only 3 teams that I think can win a tournament right now.
Yeah.
And then most other ones, like John said, the mid-pack teams, it's just like so hit or miss. It's just not good Call of Duty, not good competitive Call of Duty. So yeah, it's kind of hard, I guess, to rank them, but it'd be a lot easier if we just did it in tiers.
Yeah,
because then
it'd be super easy. Like these 3,
bow, and everyone else just like a sandwich. But I don't know. Hopefully things change because
I think they will. I mean, the champs is coming up.
I think we're going to see a lot of moves that could change a lot of these
potentially
rankings.
make it more clear in that middle pack. And guys, let's take a look at some of the results from the major, right? Why are Enable and Pacman saying this? Well, if you look at day 1, it's all 3 1s and 3 0s. Day 2 was all 3 1s and 3 0s, except FaZe and Toronto, which are 2 of the best teams. You get to day 3, and it's all 3 1s and 3 0s, except once again, FaZe and Subliners, who are one of the best teams. You get to day 4, it gets a little mixier. Yes, you get a great game out of OpTic and Toronto, that's game 5, but really it took until Sunday for you to get much out of this major. This just wasn't sweeps or kind of just lackluster series. And that's how the bracket played out. Let's pull that up and take a look. Well, the bracket, guys, I think the only thing that I didn't necessarily anticipate was Thieves falling to Florida in winners round 1. You can take a look there on your screen, but everything else was just sort of So you
very
get
boring.
to the, it was boring.
Very boring.
Sunday was great.
Sunday was amazing.
Sunday was amazing.
Phenomenal.
Everything else wasn't.
There was Thieves losing to Florida, which I didn't expect, and then Rocker getting 3-0'd by Royal Ravens, which is super early at this point.
Yeah.
But I didn't expect that one either. But
no, that's
pretty
great.
much everything else, Empire OpTic, you could argue, but even then, it's not crazy. It wasn't crazy.
Yeah. I'll tell you what. People were, saying, "Oh, this is the most competitive COD's ever been." I'm starting to think it's not the opposite. I don't want to go crazy, but I don't think it's that competitive. I think realistically, there's been only one team that's been dominant since the beginning of the game. That's FaZe. Right now, there's probably 3 teams that I could see winning with FaZe, Toronto, and NYSL. But I just feel like most of the teams are not good. They're just not. And the talent is there. There's a lot of talent in the league, there is. But there is such a gap from teams that can actually win and then everyone else. And I guess you could say, oh yeah, it's because they're all so competitive, but it just looks like bad Call of Duty to me. It's not good competitive COD. There's only 3 teams, maybe 4 if you want to add OpTic in there now, that play good fundamental COD.
I would say that it's probably because it's a lot harder to make moves. So in the past, this would always happen. You'd always drop people and blah, blah, blah. But you could always just go out there and pick up who you wanted.
That's true.
Now you have more teams that are in spots like Empire, which we don't have our
what do you
full
do?
team. What do you do?
Yeah.
Paris out here stuck in a situation. What do you do? Seattle's been stuck in this situation for 2 seasons. What do you do? So I agree with you. I feel like the mid-pack teams are a lot worse, just in general. They're a lot worse off.
I feel like in past CODs, there's been a lot more competition near the top.
Yes.
And this
5,
is
6 teams.
Yeah. Right now, majority of this year, the competition's from 12 to 6. It's like who cares? Like you said. And I think that showed in the major. There was so many 3-0s through and so many boring series where it just wasn't close.
And well, we're gonna have to start with some of those more boring teams, guys, because it's time to show you all the power rankings that Enable and Pacman have come up with. And no surprise, Legion and Surge are still at the bottom in the same places. They have not changed. Talk to me about
these 2 teams just stink.
No more comments. They're just not good.
Yeah, they're not good. And I don't even know if there's moves to be made. Like the Decimate move didn't work. The Donnie to them, I feel like Tim's actually been their best player, but the move didn't work.
Yeah.
They're gonna have to make more moves. This team just aren't good.
All right,
Yeah.
well,
Simple as that.
Congratulations, Paris and Seattle. You got all of 15 seconds of discussion here because there's not much else to say. But in 10th, you have Gorillas. They didn't change either, but I don't think as dire of a situation necessarily as the bottom two.
No, they're still right there competing to get that top 8 spot to get into champs.
They have a chance.
They're right on the edge. They seem to actually have more teamwork than a lot of the teams that we have above them. They just don't have, as you know, it says the talent. Like their potential is limited. Their ceiling's lower, but they do seem to be at least functioning on a level where they can compete.
They're like the San Antonio Spurs back in the day with half as much talent. They're
They just don't have Tim Duncan.
Yeah, they just don't. They need a Tim Duncan. Maybe they do, but he's on the bench in Vivid. But they're just a boring team. They have a lot of teamwork, like you said. I do think that they play the game very well, but they just don't have anyone that can take over, drop 60. You know what I'm saying?
That's something you said consistently. It's like, cool, you made a change, but there's just no one that can do that.
And like John said, we don't know behind the scenes, right? It could be very hard to make moves. Yeah. But for them, I think they look better than Surge and Paris. And
no question.
They're like one of those teams that can take a series off a top team.
Like a FaZe?
Yeah, because they do play correctly.
If they catch if they catch a top team off guard and LAG, the players are shooting well, they could, because they do play the game correctly. They do have good teamwork. Their just ceiling is so low.
So then what about Minnesota Rocker? You moved them down to, they're in 9th. Why do you have that opinion of them?
That's a big fall for them.
It's big for them. I mean, they did not have a good stage.
Well, from where they were a few power rankings ago, they've consistently
they've just been dropping and dropping, and we're like, oh, they're gonna figure it out. They're gonna get there. They're gonna get there. They never got there. They never got there, and they ended up getting 3-0'd.
They had an incredible honeymoon.
Incredible.
And
they was in Hawaii sipping pina coladas.
I thought they weren't even in honeymoon because maybe it just lasted longer, but they were clutching up. I think what you said before, something about winning those close series and the round 11s or whatever, and it could be a Band-Aid.
Yeah.
Maybe that's what they were winning a lot of close matches, but they kept winning them over and over and over and over. So I'm like, hey, maybe they're really good.
I thought,
and it was just, I don't know. But then they ended up getting 3-0'd by the Ravens to cap it all off, and obviously a team change coming through. So
I thought they were the real deal. I did.
Yeah.
They won they got first in their group last major. Mm-hmm. But it seems like they just regressed, and they've gotten to the point maybe even worse than they were in the beginning of the year. They can't win a hard point. Their S&D control is You know, they have no standout game mode. So I don't know. It's like, I don't know what could have happened in this time, how they could have fell this far from the last time we saw them. But yeah, they don't look good. Obviously, they announced that they made a change, so who knows if they'll get back to where they were, but they're just such a weird team for me.
They are. They're so weird. Because you didn't believe in them, then they made you a believer, and then you're just back to the same point where you're like, what the?
Yeah, I was like, I don't know. Like, do you want to be good or do you want to be bad?
Just pick one.
I only have them ahead of Gorillas because I feel like their ceiling
is way
and
still
they made a
higher.
Change,
like if they,
whatever that change is. So.
Yeah, whatever that change is, whether or not it affects it or not, we'll see. But they do. We know they have a higher ceiling. We know that they can go up there and compete with those teams. They just have to figure it out.
Okay, so you guys have actually bumped London up one spot over Rocker, and they're now sitting in 8th place. They did take down Rocker in the major. So where do you have them? Because they also potentially, I think, we saw some tweets coming out from CDL Intel, might be making a change as well as Rocker.
Oh, what change I didn't see?
So CDL Intel was tweeting potentially Zaptius might be out, Alex might be coming back in. It might be contractual issues, it might be contract problems that are occurring, but yeah, that was cropping up right after the major ended that maybe London is shifting things too.
I guess, I mean, technically on paper that gives them someone with more punch, but honestly, in the matches that they won, Zap played really well.
Yeah.
Like he was out there finessing. I was proud of his improvement as a player from when he was in the league previously.
I feel like they've been in pretty good form lately. They did 3-0 Minnesota at the major. I think if they end up going with Alex back in the starting lineup, they will have a little bit more punch.
Yeah.
But who knows? Like you said, I felt like they were finally starting to gel with Zap, and they look solid. They do. They look like a very solid team. But who knows? Because if they're making a change now, it's they're 8th.
At the end of the day, it can't be the worst thing to make a change if you're still one of these teams. But they were starting to trend upwards. But obviously, if it's contractual, there's nothing you can do about it.
Yeah, what do you do?
Right. So.
Well, yeah, and like I said, we don't certainly have all of the information on that. It's really going to depend. But I did see murmurings from Intel and everything else that maybe that's another team making a change. And guys, a reminder that Reverse Sweep is presented by USAA Insurance. They make it super easy to insure all your stuff, like your rigs and your gear, because they have your back. Eligibility restrictions do apply. Insurance provided by United Services Automobile Association and its affiliates, San Antonio, Texas. Let's talk about another Texas team, Dallas, guys. Dallas, I wouldn't necessarily anticipate mentioning them right now, but you guys have them down 2 spots. They are in 7th, right above London.
At least they're consistently falling down the rank. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
We had them at 2 at one point.
Yeah.
It's like a solid 2.
They just don't look good. They're not in good form. I know we've been harping on them. I don't understand the Hugh move. Seems like they have no plan. And right now, they just flat out, they look like they're not on the same page. But on top of it, they just don't look like they have enough talent to really compete with these other top teams. Shotzi's the only one that's looked good. I think they need to make a roster move for sure.
I would be mind blown if they went into the next stage with this same exact roster. If they do that, I mean, that paints a clear picture for us that they didn't have
They chalked
a move in place. Like obviously they were intending to make the move, but they didn't have said move. I figured maybe Slasher, TJ,
something.
I don't even know the other players. There's a lot of challengers that they could pick up. But they did that with Fellow. I mean, Fellow's their sub. It just they got to do something. And they're such a team that they really could put fear into these other teams if they started playing well again. They have that level of player. Crimsix, Go. You know what I mean? Shotzi, obviously, you've seen what happens when he becomes phenomenal. But right now, they just didn't put it together. Sure, they played Atlanta in the major, tough. But then they played Optic, and that's not a team that they should probably be beating Optic. And 2, that's definitely not a team they should be getting 3-0'd by. So it's just.
For some reason, I mean, they dropped Hugh after getting, 2nd and 3rd? And now I just feel like, I don't know if they don't have any confidence in each other. We don't know what the team's like behind the scenes now, but it feels like Kyler was almost the glue for this Empire team. They just don't look good, and I feel like none of them are happy. That's the vibe I get. I don't know for sure.
Of course,
but it seems when you play, it seems like when you're watching them play, that there's not like, the vibes that you get when a team's really having fun with each other. You see it all the time. They look like the opposite. Looks like none of them really want to play. And it's showing in their gameplay.
Well, yeah, we've talked about how dangerous it is when it looks like a team's just showing up.
They're just going with the motion.
They're like a higher level of Seattle, just showing up, playing, going home.
Yep.
When we actually
losing a series, turning their PC off. We'll catch you next time.
we said the same thing about Thieves earlier in the year, and you guys actually have them in 6th. They also went down 2 spots for you guys. They're right above Dallas, but they made changes after that. But Thieves, okay, not quite as bad as Dallas perhaps, but they did move down for you guys.
Well, yeah, I mean, since they picked up Hook, short sample size, they haven't looked phenomenal. They don't have a single quality victory. They beat the Ravens, true.
Yeah.
No disrespect to them, but that's not.
It's not a win you're looking for.
That's not a high quality win that you're looking for. You're expecting to beat them with any iteration of the roster that you have, and that's just not it. And then every other team they played, they were getting destroyed.
Yeah.
Honestly, the match against Toronto was so exposing.
It
was exposing. 250-14. Now we always joke like, haha, we could go out there and do that.
No, that
we
was.
We actually could go out
when
there
you're
and
all
get
sitting
15.
there assuming that there's tech issues happening, which is why it must be the way it is, and then you realize there weren't any tech issues. It was just that bad.
I remember after they were down 2-0 in the control, I looked at the Toronto stats and they're like 9-5. Like they were playing so much better than them that they weren't even having to go off yet.
It
looked like 2 teams on completely different planes. Like they weren't even, and that's not. And LA was trending this way. They're going up, and it's like, why would you make this change in this spot? Obviously, short sample size, and obviously their core still has the potential. We just saw it a couple weeks ago, but right now they had to move down.
Yeah, I mean, I respect them for making the change because they were trending up with Tej, right? Yeah. But when Hugh is available, you do what you can. He's a generational talent. But I think they were just starting to really gel with Tej. bringing in Hugh, it changes the whole team dynamic. Because Hugh and TJ are two completely different players with how they like to play the game, their ideology behind Call of Duty. So they're almost essentially starting over. And they couldn't have brought Hugh in at a worse time. I maybe would have liked to see them play this major with Tej.
Yeah.
But then again, it's like if you go out there and get a player like Hugh,
you have to play him.
Yeah, I also think you don't have time to wait on him for the major. You either get him then or you're not getting him.
You know, maybe it's...
I think maybe that was a thought process, but I'm not sure that that's even true. But that thought process does make sense. Maybe Hook's off the board if we wait till after the major.
Yeah, you risk out losing on him.
I don't know what emails and stuff Pastro was getting. But I think also there's a world where if they play this major with TJ, they might not even want to make that move, first of all. And secondly, it makes the move make more sense because then they can go through a whole stage with Hook and see what they're doing, see how they're playing.
I think it's what you said, though. It's one of those things where they were trending up, but they weren't quite there. And when Huke's on the market, you don't want another team around your range.
Yeah, you don't want someone else getting that
to get
person.
better.
Yeah.
So I think that is also one of the reasons why they may have did it. But right now, they're just not clicking.
Yeah. And again, who knows, maybe there's a long term there that they're looking at giving the 2 stages worth of time so that you're good at champs, because as we know with a lot of teams, you can win whatever majors or not win, but if you win champs, then you had a good season, right? So maybe that's a long game for them. We'll have to see how it works out going into the next stage. But Florida, you moved them up into 5th. Florida, why do you have them there? They obviously did get a win early over Thieves, and then they ended up falling short, but Florida, where are you looking at that with them?
This is just like they beat LA Thieves. So
is this the zone?
This is legitimately what we're talking about.
Yeah.
You tell me Thieves is better than them, I'll be like, all right, sure.
They're just neither team is excelling in anything. But Florida beat them in the major.
Yeah,
it's simple as that.
It's simple, and then they went on to get
bodied
down after that. Absolutely beat down after that, but. Who's to say that Thieves wouldn't have gone to get beat down after that too? It's just they played the higher end competition and they lost, but they did beat Thieves. So, and since LA doesn't have a quality win like we talked about,
but this team needs to make changes as well.
So, but they're me too. But they're 5th, and I have no faith in them actually at this point winning a tournament. I can't see them winning a stage,
which is crazy. Like we have them 5th. I don't think they have a shot in hell with this current roster to win a tournament.
Yeah. None.
But they're the 5th best team in the game right now.
But that's exactly case in point of what they were saying. That weird gray zone of we don't really know where to put any of you because you all kind of stink at various.
It's just very top heavy.
Yeah,
extremely top heavy.
Yeah. Well, let's start getting into that top conversation. Our biggest mover, Optic Gaming, they moved up 4 spots. They moved up significantly from before the major into 4th place. That is also the placing that they got at the major. They fell in the losers semi to Toronto in a Game 5, round 11. Optic, you moved them up. What's your logic?
Honestly, I feel like Ian touched on this earlier. When you have a team like Optic that can win purely based off momentum, it's kind of scary. And this is the first major they actually started in the losers, and I think that it helped them. Because when you play in winners in today's format, you don't play that many matches. You kind of just play and then wait and then play.
You can never get in rhythm.
You can never get in rhythm. So then you drop down. Even though you started in winners, you finished your top 6, and that's where they were losing. So this time they happened to start in losers, which I think helped them. So their first match was actually against LAG. That's the match where they played their worst Call of Duty.
Yeah,
really.
That was probably their closest series.
Yeah, they did not play that great, but they played LAG so they could get over that hump. Had that been a winners match, say they played Subliners, FaZe, they would have lost, for sure, playing like that. No question about it. And then they would have had no momentum. They would have been down on themselves, and who knows who they would have played in losers, and they could have lost. That's what's been happening. But because they were able to build that momentum, they got to play them. Then they got to beat Empire, and then they really got to play. They got to play Florida, which is the best team they played at the moment. They beat them down. Now they can go into that match against Toronto with some confidence, some momentum, and it showed in the gameplay. Yeah, they got series on their belt, and they played a lot better. So we saw what Optic can do. Do I truly believe that they're that strong? I can't say that I do, but at least we know that they're better and they have that potential to be ahead of the rest of the pack.
Yeah, they got 4th at the major. I definitely think 4th is a good spot for them. They did look a lot better. This is the best. I think this is the best they've looked in Cold War. But we could have them solely in 4th just because I think they're more talented than the other teams. You know, like John said, I don't know if I'm 100% sold on them. Because as good as they did look, They didn't play any good teams besides Toronto. Now, you only have to play the teams that are in front of you. It's not their fault. And they did take Toronto to round 11, game 5. So who knows? Maybe if they got a little luck on their side, maybe they could have been in the finals. But from what we've seen, I don't know. We need a more sample size, or we need more sample size from them. Dashi played great. He looked phenomenal. All of them actually played very well in this major, but they were just bullying most of these teams. They're just more talented. So I think they're starting to get on the right track, but we're just going to have to wait and see going into the next stage to see if they really can, win a championship, because that's what they want at the end of the day.
Yeah, see if that momentum, the 4th place finish, maybe carries over tangibly into stage 4. And well, Subliners, they are another team that you guys didn't move. You still have them at 3rd, despite the fact that they got 2nd in the grand final. So why do you have them in 3rd?
I mean, I think the top 3 teams are very close. We've seen, it feels like all of those series go game 5 between those top 3 teams. And even though Subliners were in the finals, I feel like you have to give respect to Toronto. They won the last major. They got 3rd in this one. Very close series throughout. And I don't know. I just feel like NYSL, they're on such a hot streak in Hardpoint. But like we touched on, their control is Their S&D looked pretty good. But I know that the players on the team, I'm good friends with Asim. He was saying that their S&D, it was kind of rough because of that communication barrier with Hydra and kind of, I guess, how he was playing S&D in the Challenger scene. But I just have a feeling that they're going to really focus on control, and their hardpoint might not be as dominant, which is going to be important when it comes to beating Toronto and FaZe.
Yeah. I feel like I just put them here. We put them here, sorry, because they have a weak mode. The other teams don't have a weak mode. They might not be as strong in any mode as Subliners is in Hardpoint. Well, FaZe now in S&D again, but they're solid throughout. There's no mode where you feel like you have the actual edge. Toronto's exceptional at control, so that's why you can beat them, because that's the only one. But Toronto only lost to FaZe, and they lost 2 super close series. Everyone else, literally, they were undefeated in the stage. So it's kind of hard to move them.
They had lost since May 9th, and then the first loss they had was to FaZe in winners, and then again in losers.
Right. So although Subliners got to the final, I mean, who they beat? They beat Florida, and then they beat that FaZe team 3-2 in what I call like the ultimate tie, just because it literally came down to 2 people being alive.
That was a wild series.
That's a wild series. It's just we've seen more consistently from Toronto, but that's not to take away from New York and how good they are. Like these 3 teams, they're so close, and there's this giant barrier between them and the rest.
So. We need to see New York do this again if we want to move them up.
Yeah. Like Toronto's been doing it, so just because they place one placing lower doesn't mean we should move them down. When they were previously our solid number one team, so FaZe had to go out there and prove that they surpassed them again. So, and that's what they did.
Right, well, in our top spots, flipping FaZe and Ultra. So Ultra now in 2nd, FaZe back into that 1st place position, and FaZe got their revenge on their Major 2 loss. They got to beat Toronto twice. And I feel like, at least for me, even if they had lost to Subliners, I still would have put them at number 1 for being in all 3 majors, grand finals, and for beating Toronto twice in the same major after losing to them in the prior stage.
I agree with that too.
I mean, they're the most dominant team. They've been in all 3 finals. First, second, first. Yeah. You can't really get any better. I mean, first, I guess. But like, you know what I'm saying? Yeah. When you look at every other team, even Toronto, NYSL, they're not that dominant. They're not. FaZe continue to do it. They slipped up in S&D in stage 2. Stage 3, it's practically their best mode.
You know what's weird? Like, so I really believe that a lot of these mid-tier teams are going to improve in the next stage. Whatever moves they make, I
hope.
I really do believe that all these teams are going to improve. And if you were to tell me one team, I'm going to say FaZe is going to be in the final. Yeah. Regardless of what the rest of the pack does, I'm just like,
FaZe is going to be in the final.
FaZe is FaZe. They're going to be in the final, and then we'll see who gets there against them. First time, who got 2nd in the first major? Dallas.
Yeah.
Then it's Ultra. They beat them. Then it's Subliners. But FaZe is constant. FaZe is always there. Even their rough patches aren't that long. They're just, I mean, what more could you ask for if you were a fan of a team? They just keep battling, and they clutch up everything all the time. It's crazy to watch.
Yeah, well, and I think, again, props to Toronto too. I'm excited. I anticipate them to also kind of maintain some dominant behavior through the next stage. So maybe it'll be a rematch of Major 2. come stage 4, and it'll be on land too, a discussion for a
It'll be
different
fun. Yeah,
day.
it'll be
But
fun.
yes, guys, as a reminder, again, the major for stage 4 will be on land. So I know we're all very excited to see that. But that'll be the power rankings for Enable and Pacman. How do you feel about them? How do you feel about that weird middle of the pack kind of gray area? Let us know in the comments. And until then, guys, our power rankings will have to wait till the first week of stage 4 is over.